Today, I want to take a moment to step back into the wild, wild Old West, a time in American history when much of this country wasn't yet made up of states, but territories. Back then, territories were considered temporary. As populations grew and government structures formed, those territories were expected to become states. Statehood was the goal, not the exception. Now, let's fast forward to today, and that understanding no longer holds. In modern America, territories are defined very differently. Places like Puerto Rico, Guam, U.S. Virgin Islands, Northern Mariana Islands, and especially American Samoa exist under a legal framework created by a series of Supreme Court rulings known as the Insular Cases in the early 1900s. Those rulings established that people living in the U.S. territories did not automatically receive the full constitutional rights afforded to people living in the states. In other words, the Constitution applies only partially, and Congress gets to decide how much. With that context, let's talk about a case that brings this contradiction into sharp focus. On January 15, 2026, an Alaskan woman appealed voter fraud charges in a case that puts a national spotlight on the legal status of American Samoans. The woman born in America, Samoa, and living in Alaska is facing felony charges for allegedly misrepresenting her citizenship status when registering to vote. American Samoans are considered U.S. nationals, not automatic U.S. citizens, despite being born on U.S. soil and living under U.S. sovereignty. The defense argues that the woman relied on guidance from election officials and did not intentionally commit fraud. The state argues that citizenship requirements were clearly stated, but the deeper issue here goes beyond one voter or one form. This case forces us to confront something uncomfortable. American Samoans can live in the United States, work here, pay taxes here, and serve in the U.S. military, yet they do not automatically receive full citizenship or voting rights unless they go through a separate nationalization process. They are governed by federal law without having full representation in Congress. That's where the phrase taxation without representation stops being historical rhetoric and becomes a present-day reality. If these territories are part of the United States, if their residents are subject to U.S. authority and obligations, then the question becomes unavoidable. Why has this system been allowed to continue for more than a century?